Hi, everybody. This is Charles Hoskinson live from warm, sunny Colorado, broadcasting live from my beautiful home office. It's a Corona day. As you've seen, the cases have increased. As you've seen, people are starting to quarantine. So I'm spending quite a bit more time on the farm these days. Yesterday, I had a lovely experience where I tried to feed my donkeys and they ran away. And I've learned about how fast donkeys are as I chase them down, trying to get them back into their pens. So these are my days, in addition to dealing with all the duties of being CEO of IOHK. I decided that I would give you guys a little bit more of an AMA because I abruptly ended the other AMA out of a bit of frustration, and also I needed to go home. It was late at night, but now I'm here at home and I have nothing but time, and there's no one working at the moment at 9 o'clock, so I figured I'd answer your questions. Also, give you guys a nice request. For those of you in Japan, can you please tweet some pictures of cherry blossoms to me? Usually I'm in Japan this time of year, and I really do miss the blossoming. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'll be there in time to see it myself, and so I'll have to satisfy myself with your pictures. So please do send them to me. All right, now let's get to your questions, huh? Oh, and we wish Prince Albert II well in Monaco. We just heard that he's been diagnosed with coronavirus, but he's a very bright, tough guy, and I assume that he's receiving phenomenal health care, but it's always a concern when someone gets diagnosed with that. Okay. Let's see what you guys got. Hi, Charles. Can you say anything about the potential for Cardano oracles? Probably the most likely way we're going to introduce oracles into Cardano, at least from an official IOHK perspective, as we roll out commercially critical infrastructure, will be to include some form of an oracle feed with the blockchain explorer that we've been constructing. So when you look at a blockchain explorer for something as complicated as Cardano, you can't just rehash what Bitcoin has done, where you construct an explorer that just tracks the movement of assets. The transactions in Cardano are evolving to become significantly more complicated than the transactions with Bitcoin. So you're talking about multiple assets, you're talking about metadata, you're talking about potentially identity information, you're talking about smart contract information, and potentially some regulatory flagging as well. Given that these things can all be embedded within a Cardano transaction once the Goguen era is shipped, and some of it within the Shelley era, you're going to have to build a more sophisticated explorer just to match what you would expect from a normal explorer. But then there's also a smart contract exploring and the voting components, as well as the operational components of the stake pool exploring as well. So we actually have a dedicated product manager specifically just to build explorers, and that dedicated product manager is going to also look into creating a bundling of a Oracle solution so that smart contracts can query that source. It's a good way to bootstrap some basic Oracle functionality as we're getting things started, and then we can look into Chainlink support or support of other Oracle standards. There are many that are flowing up in the DeFi space. And please do let me know if you guys can't hear me or if not. It looks like my mic is working, but it's good to get it from the audience as well. The router is a ASUS router. It's got 8 antennas and Wi-Fi 6. I get amazing routers, but unfortunately the best I can do is 4G internet, so it's like polishing a turd. When Chu? Never, because we shipped Shelley. We shipped the incentivized testnet in December. Frankly, it's as good as Shelley if we wanted to launch it today. If we were a normal cryptocurrency, we'd just launch on Rust, and we would have done that in December, and it's stable. 95% network to 99% network stability. 1,100 registered stake pools, about 300 to 400 of them consistently operating. It's actually the most decentralized network around as a testnet, and an overwhelmingly enthusiastic community and weekly updates. So that's Shelley. Because we've chosen evidence-based software, we have to ship on the Haskell side, and that's what's coming. And obviously, it takes a little bit more to bring that to market. But we satisfied that December requirement. We shipped Shelley, and now it's just time to ship the mainnet. And get all those rewards to roll over. But people are making money right now off of it. Are you still going to Antarctica? I missed my window for this year, and unfortunately, because of global travel bans, it's not going to happen this year. Next year, I will go. It's a done deal. I don't care what I have to do, and if I die, I die. But Cardano will be done by then, so you guys won't even care. What is your favorite NES game, and why is it Mega Man? I love Mega Man. That was a great game. Actually, my favorite Super Nintendo game was Mega Man X, and that whole Mega Man X series, I really enjoyed it. Killer Instinct was also very good. I played Phil Gore. But in terms of NES game, Adventure Island was really cool because you had those dinosaurs and you find the different cards, and you have the one that breathes the fire and the blue one that has the electricity tail and so forth. Those were super cool. There aren't any delays right now. Charles, good to see you. However, I'm getting very concerned with all these delays. Calm me down a bit. But we haven't had any delays yet. We've been pretty honest about the deadlines this year. And we told you we'd announce them when we were 100% certain. Stuff is coming out literally every week now. Every single week, there are releases. You can look at it in the wallet backend every 2 weeks, Daedalus every 2 weeks or so, the node every 2 weeks, just I think release 1.8. The ITN gets updated weekly, and the reboot is coming out imminently, probably in the next 2 weeks. We'll just see what we get out by the end of the month, but there aren't any delays anymore. You guys are just living in a parallel reality. Things are moving in the right direction. What's the quarantine situation like in Colorado? My dad's a doctor. My brother's a doctor. They both practice up in Wyoming. And I'm a bit worried about my dad because he's in his 60s and he's practicing medicine still and refuses not to go to work. He always shows up regardless of the conditions. And he doesn't particularly care if he gets it or not. He feels he has a moral obligation to go to work every day and take care of the sick. And he's in one of those age groups that if they contract it, it's quite serious. But despite that, he still shows up every day. Good news is he's in Gillette, which is a small town of about 50,000 people, give or take. And informally, I think the CDC is estimating that they might lose about 40 people in that town. They only have 15 respirators. They're probably going to need more than 100 if it reaches the curve that the CDC anticipates as worst case scenario. Here in Colorado, it's significantly worse than Denver, but I live outside of Boulder in the Longmont area, and there it's not so bad, but it has definitely a potential to be bad. And it's one of the things where we're just taking it day by day. I'm in a good position, and I doubt that I'm going to be substantially affected personally by it. What breaks my heart is I have a lot of friends and family friends who are losing their jobs or being financially deeply impacted by this. A lot of people I know in the service industry are being deeply impacted by the coronavirus outbreak. Just mass losing their jobs, hours being cut, and the money is just not there anymore. And as you're aware, many people live paycheck to paycheck. So this is the greatest tragedy of coronavirus. It's not the deaths. They'll certainly come, and they'll come in droves. It's the economic calamity that this is causing. In fact, some banking reports are coming through that I've looked at that say that we could see next quarter a 15% global economic contraction as a result of the coronavirus. Entire industry verticals like travel and hospitality are just being devastated. What personally bothers me, though, is that many of these companies never bothered to insulate themselves and create cash reserves. If you look at big companies like Microsoft, Google, Apple, and so forth, they have large cash reserves. Microsoft is in a position, for example, where it literally could make $0 for 2 years and still survive as a company. Apple's in the same position as a company. And somehow the travel industry, they're in a position where if people stop flying for a few weeks, they're close to bankruptcy. Meanwhile, they've done stock buybacks and large executive compensations. And so you tend to wonder about their treasury management and why they've done what they do. If I, as a small business owner, can have better treasury management than a multinational company of hundreds of thousands of employees, there's certainly something wrong with the incentives and the way that these companies are being operated. And it's a bit disturbing to me. Furthermore, there's a lack of resilience in our global supply chains for coronavirus. In particular, we moved from a stockpile economy to a just-in-time economy. So most people were used to the idea of being able to buy something and it shows up tomorrow. So you would just hold as much as you needed and no more, and just when you need it, the new stuff shows up. So this is kind of like the Toyota production system, or this concept of lean production. And in general, that gives you a lot of efficiency, but when you have supply chain disruptions, it can create substantial problems for people. And so we're in the beginning of the economic crisis. Regardless of where Corona is at, there's going to be the next quarter and the quarter after a lot of cascading ripples that will cause very substantial economic damage, unfortunately. So I'm not personally worried about Corona. I've caught much worse diseases in my life that should have killed me, but somehow I survived. But that's the story for a different time. Corona is probably not going to knock me out. It's unfortunately going to damage the economy a lot, and it's going to hurt a lot of good people. Hi, Charles. When can we expect an update from Aparna Jew? The end of the month. We did the first update in February. We'll probably do the next update the last few days of March, and she'll make some announcements then. And it's probably going to be live as well. So I did talk to her today, and she mentioned doing something with Tim and doing it live and bringing in a lot of the other product managers as well. So they'll make an announcement probably next week or somewhere in that time band of when it will be, and hopefully you guys can catch it live. There's probably going to be an opportunity to submit questions beforehand as well. So look for that next week. Is the Haskell-Shelley testnet going to be incentivized? No, because it's not going to run that long. There are two purposes for the Haskell-Shelley testnet. One, to migrate over the ITN infrastructure to the Haskell infrastructure, because there is a material difference between the two systems. And so the stake pool operators that we spent so much time curating and bringing into the system, they need some time to retool so that they can work on the software that's going to the mainnet. And two, to verify that your rewards are transferred properly and to make sure that the end user can actually use the wallet properly. So those are the two flavors of the Haskell testnet. The purpose is not to test the mechanics of staking or the business of staking. So it makes no sense to have that be incentivized. We probably will have some overlap where the ITN will continue running while the Haskell testnet is running, just because it gives people something to do. But it's not going to run for long, the Haskell testnet. It's mainly just to get those two things cleared. So it makes no sense to have that be an incentivized run. There's nothing to gain from that. No one accepts ADA anywhere. That's not true. Tavolo, for example, I can buy airline tickets and hotel rooms, a litany of things. I travel on ADA. So yeah, if I can fly around the world with it, somebody accepts it. Are you currently hiding in a bunker while the world goes to shit? No, I'm on a farm. Welcome, come visit me. Got my donkeys and my chickens and my geese and my horses and my dogs, and feed them every day, grow my own hay. Got a John Deere tractor from the 1980s. I'm never going to leave this place, guys. I'm a rancher by heart, farmer by heart, been in the family for a long time. Are you going to review on Chico Crypto's video about you this morning? Why? Guy's a gadfly. He's a nobody. I recently got kicked off of Twitter. These people burn themselves out. What happens when we ship? What is he going to say then? Oh, we didn't ship fast enough. What happens when we're number two? and displace Ethereum. But we're still a scam. We have all the functionality. We beat them. I'll go on to something else. I'll never get an apology. You cannot win fighting creatures made out of molten tar. The best you can do is just try to avoid getting the molten tar on you. And generally speaking, you fail in that endeavor. You get it on you, it sticks, it burns, and you can't get it off. Ignore them. Isolate them. Anything you do in life is going to attract people like him. Scumbags who just distort reality and use confirmation bias to present a view of something to address their agenda. They'll just say anything. They'll do anything. This person wasn't born in this country. This thing causes cancer. The latest is 5G is apparently causing coronavirus. Where's the evidence? Oh, well, this one thing happened here. It's a conspiracy theory. And they can show you a picture or a video or take something out of context and go down some road. Like in the birthplace of Cardano, ODCC, operations, delivery, commercialization, capitalization. So didn't like the way it was capitalized. Okay. Long time ago, but okay. We got some money. We built something. The thing we built is worth considerably more than what people paid for it. So the people who bought it didn't really have a bad deal. And then you say, well, the commercialization, it was supposed to be games, gambling, and everything. So one of the founding entities was interested in focusing on games to start with. That wasn't our focus. It was theirs. That's why they were called Cardano Gaming Group. They pivoted and they said, well, this general purpose platform, let's chase bigger marketplaces. But that was never our commercial strategy. Ours was always Africa. We've been talking about that since my TED Talk in 2014, which predates the Cardano project. Funny how that never works its way into a video, And then operations, the foundation was established for that. And the original principles were terrible at it. So we had to step in and clean up a big mess. This recent lawsuit is a great example of that. These reports provide no substantive value, the ZN reports. They were just industry-wide reports. Okay, they're sponsored. But if you read them and you look at them, where are the protocols? Where's the code? Where's anything that's of use to what we're doing with Cardano? Nothing. Where was anything there that was put into Cardano? Nothing. Let's ignore the 60-some papers we've now written, academic papers that are of massive use and aren't being put in the protocol. Those don't exist. The only thing that exists is the papers written by this one think tank who has to be run by the best friend of the guy who used to run the foundation. The guy who, invited Parsons to go to his wedding and so forth. So there's a commercial dispute, where they said, hey, maybe these don't provide value. Let's walk away from it. But now this is a giant lawsuit that will end the entire ecosystem until it doesn't. Just like the foundation changing management didn't end the ecosystem. Then let's go to the next thing for confirmation bias. It's an endless game. It's a molten tar monster, and he's not going to be the last one. There's hundreds of them. You run into them anytime you try to do anything, change anything. So the best policy is just stick to your guns and your principles and ignore it. Move on. Let them burn themselves out and hopefully go and attach themselves to a different project and burn people to the ground. We're getting to the end of the road here where things are starting to open up and shift, and the community is starting to become resilient and self-sufficient. 2 years ago, almost always, if there was a crisis, I'd have to get involved and do something about it. Now, usually the community just does its own thing, regardless of if I'm around or not. I can go on vacation for a week, and the community's taking care of things. And come June or July or August, somewhere in the coming months, we're going to get to a place where, regardless if you're a holder of ADA, you're a developer of a Cardano platform, an operator, or a person involved in governance, there's going to be stuff for you to do. And that community is the tens, if not hundreds of thousands. I've seen reports as high in the extreme of 1 million. Wherever we're at, the needle just keeps moving and the people just keep growing. And there's more and more people coming in because they like the technology, they like the ideology, they like the product market fit and the jurisdictions that we're pushing into, and they like that we're bringing novel new things into the ecosystem. And we've gotten to a point where you can hate me and think I'm the worst guy in the world, but still find value in Cardano. What does it mean? It means we've succeeded. No cults of personality, and we're decentralizing. And if the molten tar monsters want to come after me and chase me around my farm all day long, if I've done my job right, they can do that and have actually no material impact on Cardano. And I hope we get to that day, and it looks like we're getting there soon. Could IOHK be brought up under the new Defense Production Act? Yes. IOHK and any American company could technically be dragged in under DPA. It's never been litigated in the Supreme Court, and generally speaking, it's a Korean War Act, and so it was meant for production of munitions and manufacturing capacity. So it's gave Truman the power to go to Ford and say, hey, instead of making cars, you'll make tanks. And technically, they could use this to go to pharmaceutical companies and say, make this drug, regardless of the intellectual property or so forth, or make this mask. But I sincerely doubt that they'll come to us and say, hey, your cryptographers have to go do some research. No amount of cryptography is going to solve a virus. Hi, Charles. Could you compare Ouroboros and Algorand's pure proof of stake, especially with respect to fast finality? They're BFT protocols, so they get fast finality. We're probabilistic finality, so we're more like Bitcoin in that respect. But realistically, it doesn't impact anything. After 15 confirmations with Ouroboros Classic, we have practically the same finality that you get from a BFT protocol. That's just a few minutes at a 20-second block time. We can, of course, move that a little bit. If you super care about fast finality, Hydra provides that for free. So we have two options. We get the probabilistic finality that standard proof of stake provides, our proof of stake, and then we get fast finality from the Hydra side, whereas Algorand is taking an opinion on that side. The disadvantage is when you have fast finality, generally you actually have a high latency on your throughput because you have to go through more rounds to settle. Second, you also lose Byzantine resistance. Generally, you're operating under a third instead of a half Byzantine resistance. But in practice, there's really no material difference between the two. You use generally a payment system to do fast settlement, or green addresses to do fast settlement when you're dealing with probabilistic finality. The nodes are consuming more RAM each update, approximately 2.5 gigabytes in the current 8.15. Will Haskell consume less? Yes, much less. It's been profiled for that. Hopefully we'll have some benchmarks for you guys on the reboot, and that's a good indicator where Shelley's going to ship because they share so much code. It's about an 80% code overlap, and they have the same network design. So the Haskell side is not a big consumer of that. The reason why you see high resource utilization, CPU and network and RAM for the Jormungandr node is almost always because of a misoptimization or a space leak or a certain defect as a consequence of the high velocity. And generally what happens is they fix those things iteratively. So we've had many cases of network spikes and CPU spikes and other things that occasionally crop up and crop down. You have to have a trade-off somewhere in your development profile. So if you're optimizing around fast turnaround, meaning every week you push something out to the user, it means you don't have a long enough time to have an independent QA cycle, meaning that people who aren't the developers are testing and running it, examining it, and coming back and working with the developers to correct defects they find within their test suite. And also they're rapidly changing things all the time. So it's hard to create a stable test suite. It's almost like a virus that mutates all the time. It's really hard to create a vaccine for it, right? So similarly, it's hard to create proper profiling when you keep changing things so quickly. On the other hand, you can fix stuff really quickly. So if you don't like 8.15, maybe 8.16 actually solves your problem for you. And then there's a regression in 8.17, but you get a new cool feature, or it fixes another bug that you were worried about. The point of Jormungandr and Cardano Rust was not stability, and it was not a end product. It was to test the user experience of staking and allow us to saturate up a large amount of stake pools under real economic conditions. And that's mission accomplished by far. 1,100 plus registered stake pools and over 300-400 of them operating pretty regularly. And actually with our exercise with stake pool introductions, we're actually seeing a lot of them make videos now, which is super exciting as well. Keep those videos coming. As an unintended consequence, because Vincent and his guys are just perfectionists, we do see actually a lot more stability and bug fixing with the ITN. So if they were given, a few months of free reign and the protocol stabilized a bit, client stabilized a bit, we'd probably see a high amount of optimization, and probably would be the case that the Rust code would use less memory and CPU than the Haskell code, because it's a lower level language and there's more control of those optimizations. Wouldn't always be the case. I mean, use linear types with Haskell, you probably could get somewhat equivalent performance, but that's not quite in scope or supported yet. Should be touching your face, man. I haven't left my ranch today, and everything's been sterilized here. It's like the one place I can touch my face. If I was going to get it from my own ranch, I'd get it here. I think I have a better chance of catching anthrax from sheep wool than I do COVID here. Favorite color, black. Miners in Bitcoin are less public. Will publicizing stake pool operators be a downside for Cardano? Is there a physical risk for them being known? If they're worried about it, then they don't really have to dox themselves, and they don't even have to de-anonymize themselves. They can even just create an online alias like Satoshi did and operate with that, have a public reputation around it, but nobody actually knows who the underlying pool is. This is a humongous advantage of proof of stake over proof of work. You have a virtual resource instead of a physical resource, which means that virtual resource is ephemeral. It can travel anywhere in the world, any country in the world. So if there's a big crackdown, let's say in China, on that operation model, all those Chinese origin virtual pools can move to Vietnam or Thailand or somewhere else and exist basically without disruption. Whereas physical assets, if there's a crackdown, you can't pick the miners up and move them. It's very difficult to do that for large scale operations. So generally speaking, what they do when they crack down is they go and seize the assets. And so you just can't get that hash power back. And those supply chains can also be disrupted. Let's see what else you guys got. Will Haskell students from IOHK's Africa classes be participating in the Haskell Chile testnet? They're actually working for IOHK. They're not just participating. In many cases, they're writing code or doing various tasks for it. I think we hired about a quarter to 30% of the class, and some of them took jobs elsewhere, but we absorbed as much as we could. Yeah, they're doing work for us, and one of them even works for our director of cybersecurity, Charles Morgan, doing InfoSec work, which was quite surprising to me because that's so highly specialized. But it was just a joy running that class, and I'm very proud of Polina and Lars for going and living in Ethiopia for as long as they did, and doing great work. And I'm very proud of the girls for what they were able to put in. We don't talk about them enough. They should do stuff. They should write blog posts and do videos and so forth. It'd be cool to have them interviewed on the Cardano effect and talk about the things they're doing with IOHK. Will Cardano ever work with Chainlink? I have no problem with working with Chainlink. I'd love to do something with them at some point. It's just one of the things we have to get around to. Right now, we're focused on more foundational infrastructure, but we're building our way up the stack, and we'll get to the Oracle side at some point, as well as the stablecoin side at some point. Hopefully, as quickly as we can. In a lot of cases, we can do things in parallel. Charles, can Cardano work on a voting app to get millennials and younger actual vote? It needs to be on a blockchain. They're canceling primaries. In the 2020, they're canceling primaries and democratic events because they don't want people to aggregate together. I'm God's name aren't we voting online? Blockchains are the way to go. I know Ed Felton and these other guys are like, oh, e-voting is a bad deal. Grow up, get up with the times. E-voting is more secure than these aggregate voting and manual paper counting things because you get higher participation. So even if you have a higher local fraud rate, you get more physical people voting who have different configurations, and overall you get a better representative sample and an easier, lower cost sample of your population. So I think e-voting is the way to go, and blockchain is actually the way to do that. It's so conceptually simple. You issue an asset that it represents a voting token. You have DIDs to register people. There's all kinds of ways to create a root of trust and register people easily on a cryptocurrency. And the whole point of a blockchain is to account an asset, right? A vote token is easy as to count as an ERC20. And then your ballots are just addresses, and you send them there. You say, oh my God, but what about the privacy of the ballot? Then institute a Zcash style privacy scheme, and you have completely private collections. There's tons of ways to put voting protocols on. We've invented them, El Gamal and somewhat homomorphic encryption, and we're actually putting those into Cardano. And it's really sad that I, as a small company in Wyoming, can build a better voting system than the United States uses as a country, or for that matter, any country uses. What the hell is up with that, guys? Ask for better democracy. What do I think about the simulation hypothesis? I don't believe it, and if it is true, does it matter? Why is David Esser no longer employed with the organization? He moved on. We mutually decided that we could perhaps run the project a bit better with different management. As you guys are aware, we've had historic issues with expectation management and meeting deadlines and getting a proper, clear product vision to be articulated and developed and deployed. And that took a very special skill set, and not everybody has that skill set for this industry. And I have the utmost confidence in Aparna, and I have the utmost confidence in our current product team. And the last 6 months have been a phenomenal demonstration of their velocity and capabilities. And I'm very hopeful for this year. It takes a long time to find the right people. And it's not a dig on those people who didn't quite make it through. It's just not everybody's cut out to work in certain industries or work with certain product types and in certain environments. And they have to move on to brighter horizons. Did make some good contributions, and certainly a great articulate guy. And we wish him well. And we really do hope that his talents can be better utilized elsewhere. That said, the people we do have right now are quite good. See, I don't hide from questions, and I'm here always to call a spade a spade. This is a very difficult business, and there's a lot of tough choices you have to make and tough things you have to do. And we have had to make a lot of tough choices as a project. We've had to make a lot of tough choices as an ecosystem, and including Bitcoin itself. And you lose some good people along the way. The guy I miss more than anybody else is Mike Hearn. Good friend. He was a wonderful human being, worked at Google, and this guy created the Bitcoin Java client. He used to send emails to Satoshi, and he rage quit over the block debate, never to look back. We should not have lost him in the Bitcoin space, but we did. Aloha Cardano. I was born in Hawaii, on Maui. Aloha. Mahalo. We're a little town called Makua, for your Charles trivia. They had this great place called Komodo's Donuts. It's run by some Filipinos in downtown Makua. It's this very small town, old town Makua. And I'd go every morning at 6 a.m., pick up those donuts. They'd sell them all out by 7. And the guy refused to make more. He's like, as soon as he sold, I said, all right, I'm going to go fishing. A very Filipino way of thinking. Yeah, I love art. That's a Waterhouse, and that's a Gustav Klimt, and that's a Jean-Michel Jerome. Ah, this is a good one. What is your largest stock holding in a publicly traded company? I don't own any equity. Like many of people in my age group, I actually hold two assets, crypto and cash. That's it. I don't have any bonds. I don't have any stock. I don't have any gold, any of these things. I just hold crypto and US dollars. That's pretty much it. Not a little bit of euros, from these types of things. But I don't really believe in the current stock market. And I don't really like the way Wall Street operates. And I just couldn't imagine giving them my money. At some point I'll diversify and hedge and set up a trust. And there's all kinds of ways that you can create cash positive flows, income flows that don't require you to go kowtow to buying Microsoft stock or Apple stock. I mean, it's just basically legalized gambling at this point, and it's not rational. Why should Microsoft share value go down like 30% when a global pandemic happens? Guys, their private products are mostly digital. The foundations of that company are sound. Makes no sense at all. But hey, let's just do it because why not? Corona. Will IOHK going to be a publicly traded company someday? If we could do a security token, probably. Be cool to do that. That'd be fun. And then we'd be like this science and engineering asset, and you'd be buying an ETF on that entire industry. So maybe 5 years, who knows? Charles, the whole DeFi thing on Ethereum is becoming a joke now. What do you think of the recent MakerDAO issue? It's hard to do this stuff. I keep saying over and over again, nobody seems to really pay attention because they're so focused on the short term. It works until it doesn't. My encryption scheme works until it doesn't. My consensus protocol works until it doesn't. My DeFi app works until it doesn't. Look at all the money we're making. Look how successful we are. Look at our million users. Move fast and break things. Then it breaks. Oh, well, we have no liability. Screw the users. Who cares if they lose all their money? Not my problem. Risky, do your own research. It's an experimental economy. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, and we'll fix it better next time by temporarily introducing heavy amounts of centralization. That's where we're at. That's what these people do. Meanwhile, we guys in the research side, we're just like, let's try to actually do it right for the first time so you don't lose all your money when it blows up in your face. Because we have a moral obligation to build right products. And they say, oh, how dare you delay for so long? You're a scammer. You're a horrible human being. Delay, 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 delay. So how can you win? Either we blow it up in your face with a substandard product, or we take the time to build it and they get brutally criticized the entire time we're building it. And then when we release it, everybody like a fucking goldfish forgets about it, moves on to something else to complain about. You have to look at a long-term horizon, and you have to have principles. If you're talking about people's money, their property, their identity, their privacy, you're talking about things that are very meaningful to people. They have to be built on stable foundations, and you have to have some evidence that what you're doing works. And if your evidence is we're going to just experiment, that's fine when the people you're experimenting with are wealthy people and there's not a lot of them. That's not okay when the people you're experimenting with are retail investors with their life savings and there's a lot of them and you're creating existential risk and they believe that they're getting involved in something that's flawless. Expectation management really matters a lot. And this just keeps happening in this industry over and over and over and over again. But you get what you pay for. And as long as there's money to be made, people will do this. And as long as you criticize guys like us who are trying to build things on solid foundations, you get less people trying to do that, more people chasing the fast money. Get what you pay for. Hi, Charles. If the coronavirus was to take you, is there someone with your drive and vision to take over? Yes, we have some great people. Romain, Tamara Hassan, Jer Moroni, Aparna. We have a very deep bench at IOHK. And if I was to die, product would get done. The vision's completely there. We have clear marching orders into the end of Cardano for our contract and for where we want to take it. And we have a great ecosystem, so I'm not worried at all. And if Lassa fever couldn't kill me, I don't think Corona is going to kill me. Yeah, everybody is. One hell of a woman. Do we need a decentralized GitHub? Git is already decentralized, and it would be very easy to layer that into a blockchain structure. Please respond to the U.S. Senate bill imposed to outlaw encryption. I think that's equivalent to the ability to outlaw gravity or to change pi to 3. I mean, people can certainly say stuff and try to do things, but you cannot enforce something as crazy as outlawing encryption. It's like, how would the internet even work? SSL is now illegal. You have to have certificate authorities put a man-in-the-middle attack for every single website. The U.S. government can enforce that. It's old people who have no clue how the internet works or technology works, playing and fiddling with things. And they should be in diapers instead of voting. You always wonder who should be taken by Corona. Can you jump in and out of staking without penalty for Cardano? Yes. How's your dog Nolly doing? Very well. We got 4 dogs. Nolly's the one you tend to see on Twitter because she likes sitting up on the hill and gazing over the distance with the Long's Peak in the distance. Fake ass fireplace. Yes, it's a heater. It's snowing outside. You people. Oh my God. It's like, okay. And that's not an original Pink Floyd poster, too. This is great. How often do you brush your teeth? Once a day. Will you ever shave your hair? When the hairline gets far enough back, I may actually consider it. I don't know. I think I look weird with a bald head. Patrick Stewart really opened that door for us, so we have to thank him for it. Us bald-headed guy, all the men on my mom's side, they all go bald, and so I'm destined to have that happen. Why don't you sue Chico Crypto for defamation? Because I'll win, but it'll take 2 years to win. And then what the fuck am I going to get from him? Meanwhile, the tar monster will get on me the entire time I'm doing it. And then what? I'll get an apology? No. You don't fight tar monsters. You put them deep in caves and you seal the cave. And you hope that no one's spelunking. By the way, we're never going to call him Chico anymore. We're going to call him Tar Monster 1. No, he doesn't even get to be Tar Monster 1. He's going to be Tar Monster 3. And I'll find 2 other Tar Monsters that I value more than him. So please refer to him now for his Tar Monster number 3. If you ever see him on Twitter. Oh, he was banned from Twitter. Oh, I'm so sorry. Going the way of the Alex Jones. Well, if you ever see him anywhere, just refer to him as Tar Monster number 3. When will we see another IOHK conference? We're going to do a virtual conference for the launch of Shelley, and I did a video yesterday about that. So please do see that video on my channel. Hopefully we'll be able to make an announcement soon about the parameters of that conference and what platform we're going to use. I'd love to have it as a VR experience. That'd be super cool. And I'd love to have avatars and all these other things. You know, maybe just like a video game or something, just some place where people can actually communicate with each other and get to see each other. That'd be pretty cool. Molten Tar Monster coin. Ah, I love that. Oh, timeline for ledger integration. I believe the foundation selected Vacuum Labs as their integrator. And so I think unofficially the integration time's around 10 weeks. I haven't seen the contract yet, and they haven't made the announcement yet, but that's what I heard through the grapevine. But it makes sense from the meta layer integration that we did before. So that should come in, and I believe the contract includes hold staking and multi-sig support for Ledger. On the Daedalus side and the wallet backend side, we have everything we need for Ledger support. So when Shelley ships, we'll actually have a Ledger option along with a new way of doing paper wallets. Are you still taking it from Richard Hart occasionally? Richard gives it to everybody. He seems to be a decent guy. I mean, he's pretty full of himself, but for the most part, he's just a crypto guy. You know, it's the same for Simon Dixon. You know, every now and then he picks on us, but he picks on a lot of people. So it's not like Molten Tar Monster number 3, who's just got like this crazy heart on for us. Crazy, like molten rage. It's what keeps the tar warm. It's the rage. Do you still think that ADA could hit $1 trillion market cap? Well, it's one of my most misquoted statements. I say I want ADA to be $1 trillion, and I explained in like 5-minute rant, rambling on and on of what that actually means. Watch the video, and I give a clear explanation of it. And I believe if we deliver what we're going to deliver and get the adoption we'd like to get, yeah, it should be there. It's going to change the whole world. How did the New Balance trial go? Pretty well, actually, all things considered. We're right now trying to re-up that and get them to expand it to more product lines. It was a pilot. It was quite a successful pilot. We didn't make a lot of money on it because of the Tangem cards consume most of the fees there. But it was a great way to actually look at a hardware product combined with a software product combined with a physical product and put them all together at the end of the supply chain. So it was a great proof of concept, and it was really fun working with New Balance. We actually built a cool cell phone app and everything. And we'll see what we'll see what we can keep pushing out with that relationship. It'd be fun to keep extending it. Hi, Charles. Why would any stake pool operator switch from the ITN to the non-incentivized? Because they can do both in parallel. You don't have to shut your ITN stuff down. You're just redeploying your things in anticipation. And if you don't do it, then your competitors who do it will take all of your customers when the mainnet switches on not too long later. So you have a small window of time to maintain your brand reputation and customer base. So I think that's a pretty good incentive. But if you don't think so, well, I'm sure there's somebody who disagrees that wants your customers. FCV, I'm not too good to listen to you, but you comment on every one of these videos, 2 cents, 2 cents, 2 cents. You're a fucking troll, man. You know, if you want me to respect you, reply to you, actually interact with you, behave like an adult, not a child. There's a collection of weird people, Into the Abyss, Carlito's Way, and a few others who consistently comment on every video I make, and for some reason, they just really love saying hurtful, untrue, or negative things about our ecosystem. Why do you even care? Why are you here? What's your point? Do you just like get up in your mom's basement and say, wow, I just can't wait to shitpost something today? What's the point? What's your upside? You're not going to make any money from it. You're not getting any friends from it. And you're going to look like a jackass and an idiot when Shelly ships. Then what are you going to say? I was wrong. I'm sorry. No, you never get an apology. So maybe you're competing for Molten Tar Monster number 1 or 2. I don't know. We should have the Molten Tar Monster Awards. We'll call them the Multis. Charles, I just got into leatherworking. Do you have any small hobbies that relax you? Yes, I do a lot of gardening these days, and I showed you guys my garden. I collect art. I trying to get into drawing and painting, but I just haven't really had the time. But lately, I think I'll be able to do that. Obviously, I run a farm, and that consumes a lot of time as well. I used to build watches. That was a lot of fun. I have a whole horological set, and so I can actually take a watch apart, take a movement apart, even fabricate components if I wanted to. I read a lot. Used to write a lot as well. So I have a lot of hobbies. It's just being a CEO, you just generally don't have a lot of time, and there's a lot of context shifting. Just when you get into something, you have a fire you have to put out, and that's just the way it is. Binance will delist Cardano, and Coinbase CEO say they will not list this scam. Short ADA. Okay, I'll wait for the email from CZ. Oh my God! See comments like this. There's a lot of contenders for the multis. Tone Vase is Tar Baby number 2. You know, we can't say Tar Baby. That one's not PC. Don't say that. No, Molten Tar Monster. It's not a racial thing. It's an actual monster made out of molten tar. And the point is that when you fight them, you get the tar on you and it burns you. You know, that's the visual that we should be having. Don't go down that other way. That's very bad. It's almost as bad as Trump going around and saying, "We got Kung Flu." It's like, oh God. Can you hold one press conference without saying something to piss somebody off? That's an interesting question. So, hi, does IOHK still plan to limit the amount of registered stake pools to 1,000 come the mainnet launch? Yeah, a K at 1,000 is probably a reasonable launching point because that's what we got from the ITN. The hope is that we can use the update parameter system that we're going to deploy with Voltaire to be able to change that and other protocol parameters like transaction fees, and so forth. But it would be really cool to have a feedback loop where, based on network conditions themselves, the amount of the K parameter can contract or expand. So that would be that'd be a lot of fun. But it's kind of complicated to do that. So it's probably better to leave it to a voting system to update the K parameter. But 1,000 is a very good starting point. And what's nice is that the system maintains performance regardless of how large K gets. It's very performant within reason. Scalp micropigmentation will look super cool on you, man. Try it out. You won't regret it. All right, I'll give it. I'll buy it. I'll look it up. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, but why not? All right, SFWL. I'll stop talking about molten tar monsters if you ask me a good question. So, ball is in your court. Please do ask a good question, and I will attempt to answer it. Would Cardano be able to scale to 50,000 TPS? Yes, but we need to redesign, reimagine what we mean by the transaction, and hopefully we'll get some content out to elucidate that a bit more. Does Vitalik have something up the sleeve to blow ADA out of the water? No, he never has. Everything he has, he's already announced. He's already blown his load. And he's just trying to keep it all together. And I have a lot of respect for how hard they're working and what they're doing. But honestly, their tech is not where it needs to be. And even if they have something, they have to change the tires on a car that's driving. Upgrading the F2 is going to be a nightmare for them. And it's going to be very, very time consuming and very difficult. And they're not going to get what they want immediately, which gives me a lot of time to roll something out that's better. Also, he seems to really hate blockchain-based governance, on-chain-based governance. I think it's a humongous strategic mistake. And the lack of a treasury is going to be an existential problem for Ethereum. What did you talk about with William Shatner at Davos? Trick question, Fujimoto. William Shatner was not in Davos. He was in Mexico. And we mostly talked about horses, but we did talk a little bit about crypto. 88 years old, brilliant guy. Although I have a great moment. I told him, I said, Bill, you have to be a bit careful about our industry. It's got a lot of fair weather people that tend to cling on to you. And William Shatner looked at me and he said, you know, I hate Klingons. 88 years old. He's that fast. He's a great guy. And I had the time of my life having dinner with him. It was a kind of a dream come true. Is IOHK producing any dApps to launch alongside Goguen? Yes, with partners. Can't build the Xbox without launch applications, so we'll have some. What do you think about Trump giving away money? This is his opportunity. It's like if he could just get out of his own head, he could have so many political wins. Like he'd just call up Andrew Yang and be like, "Yang Gang, it's time. UBI, let's go," and get that whole line of people in, and then like the Democrats' minds would explode. They wouldn't know what to do with that. And of course, Andrew Yang would say yes. He'd be like, "Yeah, see, yeah, this was the point all along. UBI, let's do it. Freedom dividend." But they won't do it. Makes me sad. I want to see that experiment run. How do you secure your own crypto assets? Multi-sig cold storage and safety deposit boxes. Never actually have them where you live, and never put them in places that are easy to access. And if you have to have a custodian, have an insured one that's regulated. Are there any surprise partnerships that'll be announced when Shelley is released? Well, if I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. Think about it. When return to academia and finish a PhD? Well, I'd have to pick a subject first. Might go back into mathematics to study analytic number theory. Wasn't any good at it. Never solved anything of prominence. It would be fun to do computational logic this time around. If I retire, I'd do that. That'd be a lot of fun. And I'd probably do something with homotopy type theory. And I think I could make some meaningful waves there because I could apply all the things I've learned here. So maybe if I do the Q Adidas project, I could go in under that, but it wouldn't be for a while. I'd have to retire for that. You really have to be serious to pursue a PhD. It's a lot of work, and you have to be passionate about what you do. We produce so much scientific output that it's like 10 PhDs worth of it. In fact, people have done their whole dissertations on a small Cardano project, like Colin, for example, or Dionysius Zindros, or Thomas Kilber, or others. They're literally getting their PhDs working on this product, and it's an overwhelming amount of research. Why are some against treasuries? Because they're stupid. I don't have any other explanation for it. If you say it's okay to use inflation to pay to secure your system, but not okay to use inflation to pay to build your system and maintain the system and create adoption of your system, then you're not really understanding economics at a basic level. Think IOTA will make it? Well, if a centralized entity can shut your cryptocurrency down, it's not a cryptocurrency, is it? How will ADA change the legal industry? By creating a legal DSL. That's going to be a fun one. We'll talk about that later. Any recommended philosophy reading? In times like these, probably logotherapy, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. Nice, light philosophy, but it gives you a sense that no matter how bad things get, it can certainly get worse. And the search for meaning is a very core thing. If you're really interested in something fun, Albert Camus is also a great writer. The absurdism of things, and the story of Sisyphus. It's one of my favorite. Is ADA security? No, not even close. Come on, talk about the DSL. Well, now you want to know about it, don't you? Yeah. Now, if I talked about it, Molten Tar Monster number 3 would say something about it. Then we get Molten Tar Monster number 4, the multis. Why is Crypto Crow's website so weak? I would not call Crypto Crow weak. You can call that man many things, but like a 300-pound, 7-foot-tall man who used to be called the Tower of Pain, who's got kicks that can shatter legs, is not a weak man. He can rip you in half. I guarantee that. He's a scary, scary man if you actually see him in person. Where do you get your lion's head? No, it's lion's mane mushrooms, and I get them from stamens. I'm going to grow them here, though, in Colorado. Where did your economics knowledge come from? Ooh, that's a good one. I probably read a blog post about that and give you guys some book recommendations. But there's some good books like David Graeber's Debt, First 5,000 Years, The Social Life of Money. There's a nice book from Niall Ferguson called The Ascent of Money. And then there's certainly canonical things like things from Ludwig von Mises and Hayek. Especially the things they wrote on private monies are quite interesting to read about. But you have to understand, wealth and economics are ultimately social phenomena. They're the study of scarcity and how human beings react to scarcity. And they build social structures to manage scarcity and what emerges from that. And ultimately, I think that complexity theory is going to end up becoming the bedrock of economic analysis in the 21st century. Mostly because what complexity theory does very well is they can find these simple rules that, when applied in aggregate, form complex systems. And economies are basically that. You have simple interactions between people, information deficits, and then you basically run a model, and the model evolves and grows, and then eventually the model forms something. And that can be sand dunes, it can be ecosystems like the rainforest, it can be evolution, it can be economies. And a lot of cases where they've gotten it right with complexity theory, the economic modeling that they've done has been very, very powerful. It's predicted crises, it's shown when recessions are going to happen, and so forth. I think that there is a bit of too much effort for people to cling to things like only gold is real money. It's like, why is gold any better than silver or platinum or diamonds or anything like that? It's like, okay, it's scarce, right? You can't create it out of thin air, right? There's plenty of materials that have that, but also it provides no material real value or utility to you, whereas food does do something, right? So, you have to really start asking thought experiments and say, what makes good money? Is it the durability? Is it the fungibility of the asset? Do you need fungibility? They used to use tea as money. There's a great series I took on the great courses on banking, and it's 24 lectures that they did, and they actually had the third or fourth lecture in this brick of tea from the 15th century where you could actually break off units and pay people with it, which is pretty crazy if you think about it, but why not? Anything really can make money. In fact, prison camps during World War II, Stalag 8, I think, can't remember the Stalag number, but there was an economist who was in prison, so he did what all economists do. He wrote papers about it, and he modeled the prison economy and found out that cigarettes were the unit of account. And the richest man in the camp was a Sicilian priest who was very good at trading. So we'll write a blog post about that. What do you think of Warren Buffett's take on cryptocurrency having no value? Do not ask an 80-year-old man who's made his money from the old system what he thinks of the new system. You're never going to get a good answer of that. The best case scenario is you're going to get, I don't understand it, but more likely than not, you'll get an inaccurate answer. There's a reason why these people retire. They are brilliant for their time, and they're masters of their domains, but their domains change, and the markets outgrow them, and they have to move on. Even Bill Gates has left Microsoft, and Buffett's time has come. Is gold not good for engineering? Sure it is. There's plenty of industrial and non-industrial uses for it, but silver is an even better industrial metal. So why is it not more valuable? There's more of it, and it's also antibacterial. You ever hear of colloidal silver? Gold is non-reactive. They put it in food, it doesn't do anything. You can put it in alcohol, it's Goldschlager. Is inflation essential for growing economy? Well, if you have population growth, you're probably going to have some form of inflation. Does it really matter? Hey man, great time for an AMA. Cheers from Startup Agro Brazil. Well, obrigado. We love you guys in Brazil, and thank you so much for putting the American flag on the statue out there, along with everybody else, as a sign of solidarity for the coronavirus. These are tough times, and it's really good to see people taking things, even small gestures, to remind that we're all one global community and we're all in this together. Appreciate it. It means a lot to me. What's your favorite cocktail? Well, obviously White Russian. Come on, Lebowski. Charles, how long do you see yourself being with IOHK? I own 100% of IOHK. There's no notion of seeing myself being with them. I own it. It's my company. So at this point, I can be with it as long as I want. It's like, will Charles be fired from IOHK? When will IOHK get rid of Charles? It's like, good luck with that. I can hold a board meeting. What is your favorite movie? I have many, but probably There Will Be Blood was the best acted, best produced movie. Absolutely amazing cinematography. I really enjoyed The Fountain. That was a great movie too. Darren Aronofsky is just a genius, especially on the visual side. And there's certainly a million different things. It just depends on the mood and what you want to say. I hear Mexico wants Trump to hurry up with the wall. That's great. That's a funny one. Come on, guys, give me something good here. Charles, do you like cats? I have two of them, but they're barn cats, and they are used for mousing. I grew up with cats. My parents love cats. I've never been a big cat guy. I don't like animals that shit in boxes and make you have to clean them up. I prefer animals that go outside. When you have a farm, you don't have to do much. They're self-sufficient. Also, I like animals that when you call them, they come to you. Cats don't do that. Most cats don't. What was Ravenshore? Well, that's another interesting one. Ravenshore was a corporation I set up in Colorado, actually named after a game. Might Magic 8 had a town in it called Ravenshore. Blast from the past there, Fujimoto. Charles Hoskinson, you didn't comment on Gödel's incompleteness. Well, Gödel's incompleteness theorem is an established thing from the 1930s. There's not much more to say about it. You know, we can talk about Gödel encodings if you want. You know, there was a great quest with David Hilbert and Bertrand Russell and Alfred North Whitehead and all these other prominent mathematicians in the 19th and early 20th century, where they were basically trying to rebuild all of mathematics on a completely formal foundation where all proofs could be basically deduced through a series of computations. So they were really looking for an abstract machine that you could encode a proof as well-formed formulas, put it through, and then it would spit out an answer, whether your formula was true or false based on the axioms of the system. It turns out that you can't do that, you know, because your system's not complete. And Gödel proved that by showing that you had this inductive nature with the axioms of mathematics. So the minute that you had them, you'd always need another one. And he did this beautiful proof to show that, which was quite prominent. But it did lead to this concept of recursive functions that is equivalent to Turing machines and lambda calculus. And so as a consequence, it actually created the foundations of computation for computer science. So there was a great outcome from that research. And Turing machines kind of killed at least the question of decidability. Can you make a decision whether something is true or false or undecidable? And the answer for that is no, you can't. So Hilbert's entire agenda fell apart, but it did create computer science. So you can't really complain of that outcome. And actually, it's the nature of research. That's really the cool thing, where mathematicians were trying to formalize and systematize their systems in such a way that everything could be computable. And in the process of doing that, it kind of failed, but then it led to a whole new field of science that revolutionized all of mankind and gave us all the things we've come to know and love today. So even if you don't accomplish your primary goal, if you're smart about it, you can create wonderful secondary goals. And there's certainly a lot of fun books that have been written on it. And it's entered popular culture, and Gödel's incompleteness theorem has percolated in every single realm of thought, from can a strong AI exist to does infinity exist, or things like that. And I think that's just a lot of philosophers pretending to be mathematicians. Do miss math. Will you ever change the name of IOHK since it isn't based in Hong Kong anymore? Technically, we already have. The Wyoming company is called Input Output Global, which is a subsidiary of it. So I am the owner and CEO of IOG, IOG. We even own the domain name for it. One of these days, we'll rebrand. Just haven't gotten around to it. Heroes of Might and Magic 3, did you ever play it? Like hell I played Heroes of Might and Magic. You fucking did too. We all did. John Van Craighaven, man. Fucking 3DO, man. New World Computing, man. This just Arathia, right? Come on. It was an amazing game for its time. Masterpiece in game design and engineering. And obviously the Tower Town was the one to play. And then when the Conflux came out, because of the Phoenix advantage, that was always fun. But yes, that was a great game. And it was such a shame that New World Computing ran out of money when they were making Heroes of Might and Magic 4, because it was on track to be just as good. And it was such a beautiful game. It had a great soundtrack, but it just didn't have the money to finish it. And of course, Might and Magic 9 was a disaster because of that. Really sad. And apparently, Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is like super popular in Russia, and there's still a huge community there. Charles, do you ever think math will ever be formally proven to be wrong conceptually? No, because math is just a derivation from axioms that you set. So it's not a question of is it wrong or right. There's a question of is it useful, and are those axioms self-consistent? And the axioms of math are independent and self-consistent with the way that we've constructed the ZFC stat theory. There's no notion of being wrong. Now, you can have philosophical debates. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is to watch videos from this mathematician on YouTube who's like completely convinced that our notion of infinity as mathematicians is wrong. What is his name? It'll come to me in a moment. But God, he's actually a proper mathematician. He did Lie algebras and went to Yale, and he makes these great videos. And he's done some very good pedagogical work, especially in talking about Babylonian mathematics. So Babylonians use a base 60 system. So this is actually one of their cuneiform tablets, and this is a calculation table for how base 60 works. So it's we use base 10, and there's counts all the way up to 60, and then wraps. around, so you have to use a different way of doing calculations. But if you're ever curious on how that works and how to read these little things on the tablets, then go to his videos. And again, the name will come to me in a minute. I just can't remember at the moment. But no, math is independent and consistent. It's perfectly fine. And yes, it is one hell of a router. Are you still planning to fly for the Shelley release celebration? If they let me, I will fly to Kyoto. But that's if they let me. What do you think about Rachmaninoff? Wonderful, wonderful composer. And actually, he got into this crippling depression, and somehow hypnotherapy cured him. And then he went on to do much, much more in the music world. I've played a few of his pieces, and they're just a lot of fun. And what's nice about it is because it was almost like a hybrid between Liszt and Chopin. Liszt is virtuoso, and just pure virtuoso, totally embedded there. And Chopin is like all soul, and just all emotion, pure emotion, like dying of tuberculosis while his girlfriend's cheating on him with his best friend. And Liszt is all like, I'm the man, I can do anything. I play 12th intervals super fast, whatever. But when you put them together, you actually have Rachmaninoff. He's a little bit of everything, and just a brilliant guy. What is an axiom? It's something we assume to be true without proof. Art Tatum for jazz. Remember, do not refer to him as Chico. You have to refer to him as Molten Tar Monster number 3, Mr. Brinker. Favorite Tom Petty song? Come on, Into the Great Wide Open. That's the one. Although the markets really did push Free Falling on us, didn't they? But we do love American Girls. We want to hear about quantum resistance. It's overrated, easy to do, and when the time comes, we can pull it in. Not necessary today. It's like much ado about nothing. That's the Y2K of our industry. Get it out of your mind. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. It's not a problem. It's a nothing burger. People keep making it a problem, mostly because they have something they want to sell you, or they use it as a competitive differentiator. Okay, when people keep warning you about something that's coming in 30 years and they tell you that they have the solution to it today, you get a little skeptical about it. Be very suspicious about it. The trade-offs you pay for post-quantum algorithms are too high at the moment for the benefits that you get from them, and it's proactively preventing something that doesn't exist from hurting you. If you're curious about it, look up Shor's algorithm. See, all right, they're already starting to do Molten Tar Monster number 3. Can you 3D print a Tar Monster award, the multis? We have a 3D printed statue. It comes in 3 different flavors. This is really getting a life of its own. Please make some pictures for Twitter. Please do. Your song is Won't Back Down. Never have, never will. Is Molten Tar Monster number 1 Craig Wright? Oh my God, he is. Wow, we have number 1 and number 3 selected. We just need to get number 2. when crypto multis happen. Come on, guys, give me something good. Give me something to end on. I had this epic rant last time. I'm not in a rant mood, though. Got a favorite Rush tune? You can get all Neil Peart's on me? Wingsuit training. I was scheduled to go to Sweden at the end of this month, and I can't go. But every quarter, I've been trying to do at least 1 hour of flight time. My hope is to actually do a wingsuit jump at some point. Unfortunately, there's this thing called a global pandemic that really is slowing everything down. By the way, Dan Larimer is not a tar monster, a molten tar monster. He's very dogged guy, but Dan is not fundamentally destructive or dishonest in that respect. He believes the things he says and he believes the things he does. We strongly, strongly disagree, and he can be he lacks the social grace sometimes, like saying my thing is an 800-pound vest that doesn't stop bullets. I mean, fuck you, man. But that's commercial disputes, and we get into it here and there. But he doesn't run a podcast and bring people down, and he's never done that in his career. He just does the things he thinks are right, and people seem to follow him. And for the most part, his products are still in market. Even BitShares is still in market. So you got to give him some credit for that. I just think that he doesn't seem to admit or acknowledge that there needs to be rigor and third-party verification above and beyond just shipping it for the products to work. The takeover of Steam is a great example of that. It's very predictable. So anyway, we wish him well, but I wouldn't put him in that same category as Craig Wright or Mr. Chico Crypto. As you can see, I'm slightly moderating these days. You gotta let the past go. What's your favorite national park? Yellowstone. Absolutely amazing place. What is your greatest fear? Flying cobras. Very terrified of them. Flying cobras are the worst. No more Pink Floyd wall hanging. Well, Pink Floyd's right there. But I replaced it with the artwork. I'll put the poster somewhere else, probably in the office. What about Mike York or whatever his name is? I see him commenting on videos like Carlito's Way. Yeah, I don't know. There's like a pack of these guys. I actually wrote their names down and sent them to our community guys. but I don't know what their thing is. And one of these days we'll look into it. But it's organized because every video we make, they comment. And they obviously are always saying negative things. It's like they're being paid or something to do it. Maybe I killed their dog or something. I don't know. Slept with their girlfriend or killed their dog or something. Past life for this one. Because it's pretty crazy to see the level of vitriol and dedication to the vitriol. Usually trolls are opportunistic and fair weather. So when times aren't so good, they dogpile. But when times are okay or average, they just kind of lose interest and scurry away. To have that level of dedication to comment on every single video for 2 years, you gotta give them a multi for that. Do I remember the mathematician, Louis? I'm sorry, I didn't get the first part of the question. Which mathematician? What did you do? Hello from Romania. I love Romania. Very good cheese. Come on, guys. The infinity. Oh well, the guy who first came up with the notion of infinity. That was around math for a long time. The person to formalize it was Georg Cantor, and he was also bipolar, and so he was committed towards the end of his life. But he did some groundbreaking work, and he even came up with something called the continuum hypothesis, which was later resolved by saying that math can't solve it, which is kind of a fucking cop out. But yeah, the whole concept of infinity. Oh yeah, remember the name of the mathematician who was against infinity? Yeah, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. God, I don't remember it. I'm going to tweet it now when I find it. What about Thanatos Holdings? It was a holding company for some IP that I possessed. Roll it in the same category as Ravenshore. Favorite mathematician? Well, that's hard. My favorite writer in mathematics is Paul Halmos. I thought that he just was so elegant and concise. The most beautiful proofs were from Grothendieck. He was incredibly good at that. I think the most creative mathematician, probably Poincaré, was tremendously creative. Not very disciplined, but incredibly creative, and was capable of really having a fun time with concepts. Probably the most rigorous mathematician of the 20th century. I have to think about that. There were a few that were fun to read. Hilbert was certainly interesting. Very rigorous guy. Very, very rigorous. Had Bertrand Russell stayed in mathematics, I think that he could have done so much more, but he kind of got broken and went to ethics, had a much more enjoyable life. Emil Artin, phenomenal number theorist. Really enjoyed reading his work. Nathanson he's still alive, wonderful mathematician as well. Chloroquine, it'll work with 100% effectiveness within 3 days. Sure it will. No, it doesn't. Don't believe these types of things. Chloroquine is an old drug to treat malaria. I actually contracted malaria a long time ago. Take care, Justin. And we're winding down. Looking for a good question to end on. They did not announce that chloroquine is 100% effective against coronavirus. Nothing in the history of medicine is 100% effective, ever. Because in some cases, people get allergic reactions, even the things that cure things. You develop resistance for this medicine. Stop making things up. What's next for IOHK after Cardano? What venture would you guys like to take next? Something involving the freedom of association, commerce, and expression. One of these days. There will be a virtual conference, Steve-O. Pay attention. All right, kids. General Zod, good to see you. All right, General, I'm just about to sign off, but out of respect to the Zod, do you have a question for me? Closing question. No pressure. Come on. Yeah, chloroquine does have some bad side effects. It gave me super crazy, weird dreams. Do you still contribute to ETC? We have not made a code commit in quite some time. Is Concordium a good project? I love Lars. He's a good guy. And Yvonne Domgaard's a legendary cryptographer. It's alongside Uli Mara. Hard to fight their bona fides. And I hope that they succeed. All right, all. Well, nothing good. All right. Well, anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a heck of a lot of fun. And until next time, in Bocca al Lupo, hang in there, Italy. America, we're not too far behind you. And I hope that we can keep this going as long as we can before the great American quarantine shuts everything down. And if that doesn't happen, well, I guess we'll just have to get back to business as usual. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye. Hi, everybody. This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Today's March 18th, and I just wanted to make a very quick video asking for some help from the community. As many of you are aware, we were originally, with the launch of Shelley, planning to have a event in Kyoto. I'm probably going to travel to Japan. I'm going to make every effort to do that unless the whole US shuts down and Japan shuts down. Unfortunately, international travel is quite difficult these days. But if they allow me to fly, I will fly. That said, in an age of Corona, we just simply cannot have a conference, a large gathering. It would be irresponsible. That said, the magic of technology can allow us to have a virtual conference. So I have assigned my media director and my events planner to take a look and see if we can find some good software, a good framework where we can host a digital conference and do kind of like what we did with the IOHK Summit, but instead that people can log in with avatars and attend virtually in an easy way. So this is a new domain for us. We've never done anything like this before. And what I've learned in life is, when in doubt, crowdsource. So my plea to the community is, if any of you have attended a virtual conference or hosted a virtual conference or know somebody that's offering these services, do get in contact with us, either tweet to me or create a Reddit thread. And ambassadors, please do aggregate, collate these things And we'd like to get some recommendations on good software, good experiences, pros and cons, and ways that we could optimize this. Shelley is shipping soon, so this is a bit of a time-intensive process, and planning a conference is a hard deal. But I really do want to bring the launch of Shelley to the entire masses. I've spent years of my life on this. You guys have waited quite some time for it. It would be quite unfortunate if it just was a press release or something like that, or it was, hey, here's Shelley, and we don't get to collectively celebrate this enormous accomplishment. So it'd be really cool to see what level of innovation's been created. I one time went to a conference a few years back. If you guys look on YouTube for a presentation I did, like Pillars of Decentralized Society or something like that, maybe 2015 or 2016, that was released. I remember actually I had a little avatar, and it was for an Israeli company that did it. And I could walk around and visit things. If that's actually still around and there are things like that, it'd be super cool to get to know about them and get an idea of cost, scale, and how easy it'll be for many people to attend. Given that everybody's quarantined and isolated right now, we could end up having a virtual conference with 100,000 people. So it'd be pretty cool to see if somebody can handle that load and that scale. We have a lot of good news and announcements, and we've been holding them specifically for the launch of Shelley, and so there'll be real presentations and lots of cool things. It'll be almost like the IOHK Summit last year, hopefully bigger. So this is a plea to the community. If you guys have some experience with virtual conferences, or you guys have attended one, do get in contact with us, and or create a Reddit thread, and we'll find it, or let one of the Cardano ambassadors know, and they'll get it to us, or just tweet me, and we'll certainly take a look at it. But this is a great example of where crowdsourcing can be useful for us. We're getting really close to the Byron Reboot launch as well. We'll try to get a lot of assets out with that, from media assets to blog post and a video. That is the most significant release we've ever done as a company, and Shelley will be the even more significant release. So look for that as well, and I hope that Aparna can give you guys some good news when she does her presentation with the other product managers at the end of the month. So anyway, quick update, Shelley's coming soon, and we're getting ready for a conference for it. We can't hold an in-person conference, so let's do it virtual, and we need your help. Let us know if you've ever attended one or hosted one, or have friends that have done that, and get us your experiences and information. And also thank you to all the stake pool operators who have done a video about their experiences running a stake pool. Keep them coming. I've had so much fun watching those videos, retweeting those videos. So if you haven't already done one and you're a stake pool operator, please do one and post it either on Reddit or tweet it to me, or let Rick McCracken know. He's my accountability buddy. If I miss one of you, Rick will yell at me and say, you need to tweet this person. So keep those videos coming and introducing yourselves. You can even make a video where you don't unveil your identity. Just do a video, and you can wear a mask, or anonymize yourself. Just let the world know who you are, and let the world know why you created the pool and your experiences and so forth. We care about that information more than the particular people, and it's your chance to be in the spotlight. So virtual conference, and keep the videos coming. Thanks, guys, so much for your time, and I'll talk to you again soon. Hi, everybody. This is Charles Hoskinson, broadcasting live from my Fortress of Solitude in warm, sunny Colorado. It's 7:31 p.m. I'm having a great Sunday. I went for a lovely drive and decided to go back to the office, get a lot of work done, and been working hard. And I'm just about to close out the day. But, I realized I haven't done a Sunday AMA in a very long time. So it's about time we do an AMA. Those watching, please do share on your social links, share on Telegram, share all around. And it's always nice to get your questions, hear from you. And as this is an AMA, not an update, we'll start right with the questions. Let's see what we got. Cardano community gets so much shit. We do, because everybody's scared of us, man. No one can match us. No one can catch us. Cardano is going to win. And even if we don't, it's going to be one hell of a fight. Let's see here. First question, why are you doing this during a primary debate? Do you guys really care? Let's get into that. Okay, so you got Joe Biden versus Bernie Sanders. And here's what's going to happen. Biden's going to win the primary because he was selected to win the primary. If you guys think you actually have a choice in the Democratic Party, yeah, how was 2016 with Hillary Clinton? Or for that matter, any of these primaries? It's rigged.
It was a choice between dementia and communism. The party would much rather deal with dementia. What's really interesting, though, is who's Biden going to pick for his VP? I'm going to hazard a guess. This is one of those Hail Mary out there ideas. I think it's Bill Gates. See, he just recently stepped down from the board of Microsoft and Berkshire Hathaway. Okay, let's see here. When Shelley mainnet? Sooner than you think. Why is ADA so low? Because everything else is low. And when everything else goes back up, ADA goes back up. Real decoupling takes years. Fix for Catalina OS ITN, working on it. There's some Apple issues. Ketogenic diet and fasting to protect yourself from coronavirus. Hope it does work. Let you guys know. I got my fresh mints over there. Yeah, those plants are nice, man. Charles, how likely do you think this is a recession in progress? I think not only has the recession begun, we're starting to see the unraveling of the world financial order. The United States today just cut the interest rates to 0%. Just conceptually think about that. The government's saying, hey, yeah, borrow money at no cost. Money's free now. Just go take it, loan it out, create as much money as you want. It's not a sustainable system. We've been saying it for a long time. You can kind of hold up the tides as long as people believe in it. But the minute you have a global event like a global war or a pandemic, the financial order comes crumbling down. So I don't think they can hold on much longer. Do you think Bitcoin's going to zero? No. Bitcoin's going up and everything else is going up after we get over this initial bump. You see, guys, what this crisis needs to demonstrate for all of you, myself included, is people panic. People succumb to fear. Look at the shortages of toilet paper in the United States. I mean, if you're really honestly concerned that we're going to run out of toilet paper, why don't you just buy a bidet? But no, people just don't know what to do. So they're running out and buying toilet paper until we run out of it. So then you have to ask yourself, what kind of panic will ensue the minute that a single bank or a collection of banks tells people that they can no longer access their money, that they can only withdraw a certain amount of money per day, or puts restrictions on what they can buy, where they can spend that money? Do you think that's not going to create a global financial panic where people start creating bank runs and buying crypto assets like crazy? It will happen at some point. We can't have trillion-dollar quantitative easing and stimulus packages and 0% or -% interest rates. You just can't do it. You can't do that. If you do it too long, the system will start crunching, and then these events, if they're too heavy, will force a banking crisis, and that's going to be the time for crypto to shine. Can't tell you when it's going to happen, but I tell you it will happen. And when it does, that's our time, and we're building for that. How is the McCann marketing campaign going? Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I'm not so happy. This is business between the foundation and McCann. I didn't like the pitch that they gave us, and I gave a lot of feedback. I think they're planning on a new pitch, and I hope this one's better. But I was not very happy with it. We've worked with McCann before on different projects. I was quite happy with them on that. But for some reason with Cardano, they just had a lot of difficulty getting to a point where they could create a unique USP. Maybe it was just too early in the process, but this process has been going on for months, and I was expecting more output. So that's all I'll say about that. But I've always been a direct, blunt person. And as I am a consumer of this process, not the primary client, I do get to openly criticize them from time to time, much to McCann's dismay. Time to refinance your homes. Yeah, time to buy gold guns and ammo. When will Daedalus support multiple cryptocurrencies? One of these days, working on it. Biden just committed during a debate to nominating a female VP. Let's see if he can remember that. And if he does, then probably someone young. What do you think of MakerDAO's latest trouble and the impact of DeFi on the role of Cardano in the space? Well, it doesn't impact us. That's an Ethereum issue. But it does give you guys an indication of how incredibly difficult it is to create a financial product that is sustainable and stable in different market conditions. If it was so easy to create stable value, then central banks would be an easy affair. The fact that this was attempted to do with one of the most volatile assets in the world really shows you that creating a stablecoin, an algorithmic stablecoin, is an enormous task, and it's not one to be taken lightly. And there was a bit of a feeling for a while like they had mission accomplished, and recent events show that not so much. And it's just back to the drawing board. Charles, are you ever visiting New Zealand? One of these days I'll go, because I want to go to Fiji and Tuvalu and Tonga and so forth. So absolutely will go, but right now the whole world is kind of shut down. Now let's talk about formal verification. This is an interesting one. It says formal verification matters. So the process of formal verification, to ask questions, to think carefully about what you want to do, is really the key value driver for formal verification. So formal verification doesn't necessarily mean you're going to write great software or write software that does what you think it's going to do. You still, because of flaws in the design of the system, or you just misunderstood what problems you were trying to solve, could write perfect code that's useless or imperfect code. However, the process of doing formal verification forces you to think above the code and think about the problem, the domain, the design, and really start asking deep questions about how you're going to update it, how you're going to maintain it, what things mean, why you're doing what you're doing, and if those things are reasonable or sensible. This is a tremendously valuable exercise, and it's one that does not require an extensive use of resources. If you're very interested in a fast-paced way of doing formal methods, Practical TLA Plus is a wonderful book, and there's a lot of good ideas and examples there, and Graham even did some YouTube videos about it. That's a great entry point into formal methods that does not require an in-depth knowledge of deductive logic and the dependent types and these types of things. You just can read the book, and as long as you have enough programming experience, you can easily ease into it and still write some great models, and you'll very quickly see the power of it. Leslie Lamport has also done some wonderful videos on TLA Plus in particular, explaining the value of it as a system. And that's a good entry point into formal methods. Charles, do you expect Cardano to be listed on a new major crypto exchange in 2020? Yes, several. Hydra is an off-chain scaling solution. So how about on-chain scaling like sidechain? You don't need it. You just don't need it. Guys, Hydra plus what we can do with Cardano alone is enough to be a global scale system. We do not need to do ledger-based sharding. We can get Ouroboros, the protocol, one shard, one chain, up to 1,000 TPS. That's Visa scale for the average load of their system, not their peak throughput, but for the average daily load of the system. And then with Hydra, you can get as far as you want to go. To reach that kind of capacity, we would be talking about tens, if not hundreds of millions of users in the system. And at that point, we need a fundamentally new network stack. We need a fundamentally new way of handling the data flows. So we need recursive snarks to preserve inclusive accountability. And yeah, eventually we'd need ledger sharding. We know how to do it, but there's trade-offs with it. So just go with a single ledger approach with a layer 2, and that's enough to cover the next 5 to 10 years of growth of the system, even to unreasonable demands like 100 million users. Jack Johnson, I bet you knew this was going to happen with all this from the Satoshi Roundtable, right? Well, I knew a global pandemic was coming. I didn't want to believe it, but all the evidence pointed in that direction. And I was listening to John Campbell since January and others. And I was even a member of certain Telegram groups that were talking about this as early as December. And I had people in China sending me emails and messages. So we were definitely tracking it at IOHK. And after certain thresholds were met, we decided to go into pandemic mode. I'm sad it's here. But I mean, Bill Gates was warning the world about this in 2015. There's a Vice documentary on it, Vice video. Is the Byron reboot still being released this month? Aparna does all the dates, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. Charles, are you buying Carnival stock? I'm going to hold off on buying any travel-related stock. Although if you're really crazy, really crazy, you might want to actually go long on the travel guys because they might get a bailout, with all this Mickey Mouse money we have now. Quantum computer engineering, what are your thoughts? Be more specific, Crypto Ken. Am I Jewish? No. Italian Catholic. No Jewish blood in the family. Nasir, greetings from Iraq. When will the Daedalus wallet get update to work on Mac? I will find out for you. We've been having some difficulty with the certificate process. We had a switchover, and Apple was supposed to give us new credentials, and we've been waiting. The delay's not on our side, it's on Apple's side, and it's just been extremely frustrating. They have historically been very slow when you have to do these things and rotate credentials. Microsoft is much faster and much easier to work with. Hoskinson doesn't sound Italian. No, it was Protesio. Giacinto Protesio. He was Italian. You see him over the hands. Mi piace l'Italia. Molto bene. Charles, is it possible to mention some of the current challenges you are facing which need to be solved before you announce the Shelley launch? There aren't any problems. We know exactly what to do. We have all the work quantified. We have the sprints lined out to a point where I have these beautiful pictures, and it says S6 and S7, 8 and S9 for sprints, and I know exactly where everything's at. I know the date for Shelley. But the problem is that I don't know if they're going to get it all done. They say all of this work is going to get done in S7. It might get 75% done, and we have to roll some of it over into S8 because something comes up, like we have a CI issue or somebody gets sick or yada, yada, yada. So what I'm waiting for is that we get closer to that launch date. Second, that we actually demonstrate shipping of the core software required. There are two pieces. One is the Byron reboot, because that's the foundation, 80% code similarity with the Shelley code base. So that is a great indicator of the quality of what Shelley's going to look like, and a great indicator that Shelley's nearly ready. And the other is the shipping of the Shelley Haskell testnet. And then it's just a question of, what is good enough for the market. But it's no longer a situation of, well, do we know how to do something or not know how to do something? It's a situation where we have a giant pile of work. It's called a feature backlog. We've chopped it all up. We put it into sprints. We roughly know when those sprints will be done and how they're done. They're 2-week sprints, and I see them burning down. And that's why I say we have confidence intervals now. And so we're in a situation where we have a pretty good confidence interval for the shipping of Shelley. But I need, as a CEO, because I've been burned so many times by bad estimation under old processes, to see some things that tell me otherwise. So Byron reboot and the Shelley Haskell testnet, once those two events happen, then we're 100% confident those pictures, those beautiful pictures we're seeing, and the velocity behind those pictures and those sprints are accurate. And if that's the case, then the band I have is something that can be made publicly available. But I'm very confident Shelley is shipping soon. It's just, we have to see and make sure that velocity is where it needs to be. I understand it's frustrating, but guys, we're in a market condition right now where we launch Shelley. It's actually not going to significantly impact the price of ADA. So if you're hoping for Cardano to somehow become a top 3 cryptocurrency the minute that Shelley comes out, I think you're setting yourself up for unrealistic expectations and failure. This is the biggest milestone in the project's history. It's a very significant one. I'm going to be super proud when it comes out, as our entire community will be. You can tell everybody who says we're just a wallet to go fuck themselves. Seriously, I'll say it again, go fuck yourself. I cannot overemphasize how much of the fucking yourself has to happen to these people who say that, because it's so hurtful and just unbelievably stupid. And you can then point that in their face and make them feel like garbage, because they are garbage. But it's not going to have major impact, because I mean, the Federal Reserve printed $700 billion and cut interest rates to zero, and the markets aren't going up. If you can print nearly a damn near $1 trillion out of thin air and you can't influence the markets, we are not in a position where markets are rational. They're very fragile, they're very bitter, they're very volatile, and no news item is going to be bigger than the prospects of a global pandemic cowling the world, killing 50 million people. This must pass for everything to go back to where it was before it came. Before Corona hit, the markets were starting to go back up. Crypto winter had ended. Crypto summer was starting. And we were looking at a lot of great events, from the halvening to the launch of Shelley and so forth. So I'm sorry to say that this is the environment that we're in, and buckle up. It's going to be one hell of a ride. But remember, I'm not here, and I've told you repeatedly to wake up and see $1 ADA or $10 ADA or $100 ADA. I'm here to build the world's best cryptocurrency, and I'm here to make it as commercially viable as possible and make it a great platform for billions of people to build great experiences. It just so happens that if I succeed in that goal and make it self-sustaining and decentralized, that Cardano will become, just by network effect, the most valuable network on the planet. So that is a secondary impact to the primary goal of making Cardano great and useful for everybody. I cannot tell you when and how price will appreciate. That's a function of speculation and a function of market volatility, and it's a function of natural demand. All I can tell you is that we at IOHK wake up every single day and we think a lot about delivery. And we know what we need to do to make Cardano the best cryptocurrency on the planet. And we know what we need to do to commercialize the platform and get people to use it and adopt it. And we know what we need to do to integrate with the existing cryptocurrency space and infrastructure, whether it be wallets and exchanges or it be third-party applications. And we're going to do that every day we can. And we're going to try to make this ecosystem as sustainable as possible so that we can be around to keep doing that for a long, long time. I'm a young guy. It would be very easy for me to spend 10 or 20 or 30 years in this ecosystem. It'd be a lot of fun too, because we could just keep upping the ante and adding more capabilities and making the system go great. But nothing we can announce is going to overcome the global pandemic, and also macro events are leading the markets right now. So if a single bank run happens, Bitcoin could go to $100,000. Or Bitcoin could collapse to $1,000 because of short sellers and other events in the markets. So you just have to be careful. This is a very risky time where great fortunes will be made and lost. Why do you think ADA will surpass Bitcoin? Because I think we have more utility and we're just a significantly better cryptocurrency and the first to offer the same security principles with none of the downside. So it makes no sense for Bitcoin to rule the roost. We're really the first ones to come at it with the same overall technological goals of Bitcoin, but do so in a way that vastly surpass it. Bitcoin has UTXO, we have extended UTXO. Bitcoin has all these very nice security properties of proof of work. We found a way to match all of those security properties. So we get smart contracts, Bitcoin really doesn't have good ones. We get much easier layer 2 stuff. Bitcoin is super painful to do it. They have to spend more power in the country of Switzerland. We spend 10 kilowatts. You see the pattern, every single thing we outmatch them. And so given that we have so much utility and we can complete an entire enhanced transaction, so the asset, the identity component, the metadata component, the contractual component, as well as the regulatory component, given that we can do all those things and Bitcoin cannot, there's just no reason to use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange or as a dApp platform. The only thing it can be is a good store of value. And I believe firmly it will maintain that status and it will still be a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem, but it's just like gold in a global economy. It's just one of many options and it has its place and purpose, but it doesn't do everything. Is the K framework still a thing? Yes, it's a big project out of University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Grigori Roshu still wakes up every day. For 15 years, he's worked on K. This is one of the philosophical points of what we do at IOHK. We invest in brilliant people who have a consistent track record of waking up every day, sometimes for decades, and basically pushing for their ideas. This is one of the reasons we hired Phil Wadler, for example. Since the 1980s, Wadler has been a huge advocate of functional programming. He created the Haskell programming language with others. His philosophy of how good programming should be done and how a person should think about computing has never changed. It's always been refined and augmented, but he's really an example of this concept of Kodawari, this relentless pursuit of perfection. And so we brought him in to design Plutus as really the apex of the twilight of his career, to give him a chance to aggregate all the lessons learned from those 25,000 citations and dozens and dozens and dozens of prominent papers, and put it into something that would allow the next generation of functional programmers to do much better things than the prior generation. So with more developer productivity, less code, better testability, and ultimately better verification of correctness. So we invested in Phil so that he could give us that. And he has that track record. And long before I was born, Phil Wadler was doing these things. And long after he's dead, his students will be doing these things. The same for Grigori Roshu. He's been doing K for about 15 years now. He created his own logic called reachability logic for it. With or without our money, he wakes up every day and he's the K guy, writing papers every year, pushing very hard every year. And Runtime Verification is a great company. In fact, I think we've come up with a way, and we'll start collaborating, hopefully, with RV to refund what we originally wanted to do with semantics-based compilation in K and Yella, and hopefully find a path to gradually get that into Cardano. To this day, that was one of my saddest moments when we saw the markets collapse from $1.28 to this. We didn't have the runway to do luxuries anymore. And so that luxury of having two computing models, extended UTXO and Yella, had to be reduced to one. And it made more sense to do extended UTXO because that's so useful for Hydra. That said, it's always been a desire of mine to bring SBC back into the Cardano ecosystem and to build up Yella and the ecosystem around Yella. That's unfinished business. So we're going to do everything in our power at the IOHK side to try to make sure that that side of the ecosystem can get refunded. And hopefully the second half of this year, that will be possible. And we'll, of course, make announcements where and when that makes sense. But RV was a great company to work with. Grigori is a man of enormous integrity. And he has some of the most brilliant people on his team who are just a joy to talk to. And I really enjoyed flying out to Urbana-Champaign, very small airport. And the planes get delayed often, but I really enjoyed flying out there, and I really enjoyed spending time with them at Black Dog and eating the barbecue there. And unfortunately, I had this habit of flying out while I was fasting, so a lot of the times they were eating and I wasn't, which was really nasty because that's good barbecue. There's an article out on quantum computing that will have power to disrupt Bitcoin's mining protocol on proof of work. Is this true? No, I wouldn't worry about quantum computing or its ability to affect proof of work. Proof of work is mostly secure from quantum computers. The underlying public key crypto is not secure. So there needs to be some changes made there. But post-quantum crypto is among one of the fastest growing and most studied areas of cryptography. And there are wonderful signature schemes like XMSS and things like lattice-based signatures. The crystals framework and dilithium are examples of that from Peter Schwabe. In fact, we're working with Peter Schwabe, and we will have some variant of XMSS or some hash-based crypto for signing of Cardano blocks. And that's one very necessary step, not the only step, but a very necessary step to get us to post-quantum, to get us to quantum computer immunity. We still also need a post-quantum VRF, and there's a litany of other little things we need to clean up against the quantum adversary. And we have done the work to start modeling blockchains against a quantum adversary. But this is definitely a big research surge that would be required. However, the time horizon of when commercially available quantum computers would actually be applied to hurt cryptocurrencies compared to where the crypto's at, they're not even close to matching each other. We're not going to look for commercially available quantum computation for 15 to 30 years, somewhere in that time horizon. And within 3 to 5 years, we will have satisfied all of the mathematical foundations of post-quantum crypto and gotten that post-quantum crypto, like the VRFs and the signature schemes, into cryptocurrencies. And even in more advanced primitives like snarks. For example, Starks are already post-quantum. It's one of the reasons why they're so large. I just finished a 30-day fast. What was your longest, Charles? I think 2 weeks. I can't remember. Somewhere around that amount. It was very hard. Charles, if you weren't working on Cardano, what other project would you like to work on? There are several really interesting cryptocurrency ideas. I'd love to do something involving freedom of association, commerce, and expression, bundling all of them together, and hopefully we can get to that. I'd love to resurrect the Q-Adidas project and create a marketplace for deduction. That's unfinished business from my mathematical roots. I studied analytic number theory, but if I could do it all again, I'd probably be a computation logician. I've fallen in love with proof assistance and things like Coq and Lean and Agda, and this concept of treating a mathematical proof as a mathematical object unto itself that can be operated on. And the compilation of that object verifies that the proof is correct. It's a very powerful thing. It's almost to Hilbert's demon, where he was thinking that you could just build this universal machine that would prove things, and it turns out that, well, that's not possible, and that's actually what led to the birth of computer science, the field of computation. In the general sense, in the particular sense, there are ways of reconstructing mathematics, like homotopy type theory, to make mathematics very understandable by computers. And it would be really interesting to create a financial incentive for people to write mathematical proofs, and thus there can be a gold rush where graduate students and professional mathematicians alike could actually derive a substantial amount of income just doing math and creating a marketplace for deduction. So there was a project called Q-Adidas that we inherited from an alias named Bill White. I promised Bill that we would get around to doing something with it. I was planning on doing something last year, but Cardano kind of has been in the way of that. So hopefully, once Cardano is a little bit more evolved, that can be a project we can resurrect. In fact, Paulina will probably be the product manager or the technical architect. She's a logician that works for us, and wonderfully smart gal, and uniquely qualified to actually handle that. And actually, the components of Cardano could be mostly reused there. We would use Ouroboros as the consensus algorithm. We would reuse the network stack and the wallet backend. So realistically, we just need to write the ledger rules, and I'd probably write them in Lean 4 when Lean 4 is available, and then the deduction engine and get all the logic right. There's a 100-page reference manual still on our website about Q-Adidas. It's also on qadidas.org, QEDITAS.org. Stands for QED, Quod Erat Demonstratum, which is that which has been shown. It's what mathematicians write at the end of a proof, although I always wrote W5, which is what we wanted, or with a Halmos mark in it. But anyway, that's a project I've always wanted to do, and that'd be a lot of fun. On the hobby side, I'm getting a lot into controlled environment agriculture. I got a farm, as many of you know. I grow hay, feed it to the farm animals, and getting some irrigation this year for it. Super interesting to set up some hydroponic, aquaponic greenhouses and grow some nice exotic fruits and vegetables. What is the brand name and model of your piano keyboard? I have a Yamaha, one of those upright digital pianos that has proper key weighting. It plays like a Steinway Grand. It's absolutely amazing little piano, and it sounds really nice. They sampled a Bosendorfer and a Yamaha D290. and both of them sampled beautifully well, and the speakers are quite good on it. So it feels like a grand piano, it plays like a grand piano, and it sounds like a grand piano, even though it's a digital upright. And it was a lot cheaper than a 9-foot grand. I have a nice ranch home, but it's not big enough for a 9-foot grand, so I went ahead and got it. You don't have to tune it either. Really nice for Beethoven, Chopin, very light touch on the keyboard. Charles, has there been any progress in implementing Halo into Cardano? It's not in scope for Cardano. Halo is interesting. We love it. Recursive snarks are super cool. You're going to have to pay us to do it. It's not in scope. So that would be something, for example, that IOHK could do post 2020. So when we go to the community and say, hey, we'd like to do another 3 to 5 years, that sure as hell is going to be in the scope of work. And I think it's something that would be a huge competitive differentiator. But just because we do interesting research doesn't mean all of it ends up in Cardano. At some point, you have to re-up. And that's an example of the value that comes from the next generation. Charles, can you talk about the protocol of Polymath? I came on board Polymath as an advisor and helped them come up with a commercial strategy. They chose to use Parity Substrate, and I think they're going to deliver that to market at some point. My time as a consultant was just 1 year, and it's coming to an end. And I don't think I can add a lot more value to that team. They've chosen a commercial path that is a bit divergent from the types of things that I work on. But it's a good team. I like Thomas, I like Trevor and the rest of the gang, and I wish him well. And I really hope that what they've constructed with Polymesh ends up becoming a successful protocol. Security tokens are an interesting industry, and it was fun to be part of something where I got to learn a lot about them and talk a lot about the prerequisite technology that goes into it. So it's going to be interesting to see where they take it and how they get it to where it needs to go. And it was a good year. That's the problem with being a consultant. You can only have so much impact, and all consultancies come to an end eventually, and you kind of have to just watch them move on and wish for the best. It's like the kids leave home or something. You don't really have control after that. Pumpkin pie. And why? Because it's delicious. I've never liked apple pie. It's a texture thing. Is Ethereum going to get fucked? Has it never not been? How old are you, Charles? I'm 32, turning 33 this year. I used to be the youngest guy in the room, but slowly but surely I'm starting to get older. You can see the white hair seeping its way into the beard. As CEO, does the price of ADA annoy you given the current market situation and how far the project has come so far? Not really. I don't get bothered too much by it. I mean, the reality is people talk about the price, people have a stake in the price. At the end of the day, what matters to me is I do the job I was hired to do. We said we are going to go do first principles research, create a whole slew of scientific validated protocols, and then use evidence-based software development to implement those protocols. Should we do all of that, I can really say I've done something special and delivered something special, not just a great piece of software that's beautiful and elegant and capable of doing lots of things, but I've left behind a process that, if followed, will guarantee that our software will always be the most advanced, always be the most decentralized, and never have a cult of personality. So as much as people love me, it makes me unnecessary and irrelevant in the long term. So they might venerate the things that I did, but they won't require me to be in the room to be able to make a decision. And that's ultimately the key to success with cryptocurrencies. You cannot have a founder. And if you do have a founder, you need to find a way to get rid of that founder, at least from a power perspective, as quickly as you can. So I'm very proud of the process we created. I'm very proud of the ideas we brought to bear. And I firmly believe that those ideas are valuable and that in time, the market will come to appreciate them and reward the followers of this ecosystem accordingly. As for the day-to-day prices, the reality is crypto is heavily manipulated and very thin, and there's not a lot of truth or reality. And it's a game where very clever people victimize retail investors regularly. We've seen this happen time and again, from ICO mania to a whole bunch of confidence scams to exchanges with fake volume and so forth. And it's one of the principal reasons why the SEC does not approve the ETF. So why should I concern myself with a vanity metric that is manipulated on a regular basis? I should concern myself with our population. If you build something with 1 million people using it, it's valuable. If you build something with 1 billion people using it, you are Microsoft or Facebook or Google or Amazon. You're at that scale and you create that much value. You will employ hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and you'll create all kinds of new wealth. This is the game we're after, not the arbitrary token price day to day. You can't win that fight. And if you start playing it, you end up looking a lot like Tron and you lose credibility very rapidly. Charles, what was the PwC partnership all about? PwC came in to create a unified commercial strategy in conjunction with Emergo IOHK and the CF. So we spent about 8 weeks of preparatory work, and then we had a workshop in London in early March. And the conclusion of that workshop was a humongous list of to-dos and a kind of a unified strategy for all of us. It was an overwhelmingly successful workshop, and we really did enjoy it. And I think it's going to add a lot of long-term value to Cardano. What is around your neck? This is a Komuso whistle. When is the release of Captain Cardano? We should create Captain Cardano as our version of CryptoKitties. That'd be a fun application to create. You're up in sunny Blackhawk. I love sunny Blackhawk. Blackhawk's a beautiful town. Morrison's a beautiful town too. I love Red Rocks. What the fuck is this shit? It's my shit, and it's quite good. What's your shit about? How do you pick questions in your AMA? I just pick whatever I feel about, like answering. I look at them and I say, hey, there you go. What computer language should I learn to understand ADA smart contracts? Haskell for the moment. But that's a component of the broader picture. Charles, how is ADA transactions verified? Thanks. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Can you ask a more specific question? Try it again. How is IOHK being funded? Through business. We're a commercial entity. We do contract work. People pay us. We do stuff. How do you think Cardano will be faster than Hedera Hashgraph? Why do you care about speed? I just told you that we're going to be a global scale system. We can sustain 100 million people if we wanted to, once everything's turned on. So what? We got fast finality. We got really short block time. We got everything you asked for, guys. Why do you care? Get to a point where you need to scale. Believe it or not, it's a good problem to have, congestion. It means people are actually using your software. Productive congestion. It's a good thing. It's like you own a store, you see tons of people in it. You're like, okay, I'm doing good business here. It's like, how do we get our checkout lines to be faster? You can always build more, but it's nice to have them congested. It makes you feel good. The store is successful. You guys are crazy. What kind of features are you looking to explore with Zcash? The most interesting paper Zcash wrote was Halo. We love recursive snarks. We created our own snark. It's much better than theirs. It's called Sonics, and we finished implementing it. Will you leave the Cardano project before it's 100% completed and working perfectly? We will not leave the project until we complete the roadmap as specified. So we will make substantive progress with Basho, Voltaire, Shelley, Gauguin, and Byron. The Byron reboot is the end of Byron. It's everything that ever could have been imagined or done with Byron, and that's shipping incredibly soon, like really soon. And then Shelley is well underway.